professional wrestling, eh? Yes, I watched that. Come at me. I started watching wrestling probably a tiny bit before the whole Attitude Era, but I can't say I really remember it that well. What I used to do was watch WCW on Friday night on TNT, right after Cartoon Network. I used to watch that with my dad until bedtime, and then I'd just record the rest and then watch the rest Saturday morning before going to Saturday school, or whenever I wasn't, I'd watch WWF as it was called back then before it came on Sky. Um, no, when it came on Sky. uh, I used to watch these shows religiously and I'd never ever miss a show. Although thinking about it, on Saturday I'm guessing it was probably like the recap from Raw and SmackDown all into one. So that was really convenient, so I didn't have to deal with any of the filler matches or the fluff and all that sort of stuff. I never did watch the pay-per-views as we never really could afford to buy them. So I relied on those still images that you'd get on the SmackDown Raw shows afterwards, and I'd work out what happened from there. It was a big thing in the playground, like a craze, a bit like how Pokemon was, how Tamagotchis were, all those aliens in goo which apparently could breed with each other. I don't know if you remember those, but yeah, a lot of people were convinced that they could. But anyway, despite the show's insistence to please do not try this at home, we still did some of the moves anyway. Well, the ones that we could perform. None of us could really do suplexes because we weren't strong enough to do that. But we just used our imagination for things like that. We had this little mini ring. We even had a steel cage where on one side of the playground there was like mesh, and we just used that as a steel cage, and it's quite fun. I remember one time someone actually tore there was a loose bit of wire from the mesh, and someone actually tore their knee, and you actually could see their bone. And I suppose that's why they tell you to not try this at home. Anyway, we used to wrestle whenever we get the chance to, and we'd imitate a lot of what we saw on the TV. And I remember that Kyle was The Rock, Trevor was Stone Cold, and I was Mankind. And I would actually take some of the bumps from the move. That's probably why they called me Mankind. Well, why they gave that to me. Anyway, because I remember a time that I actually did get pedigreed, and I had a headache for some time after that. But yes, I would actually take some of the bumps from the move, but I didn't mind because it didn't really hurt, and provided you knew what you were doing, it was kind of like, you just land on your back, just pretend, squirm for a bit, and blah. Anyway, moving on. I suppose as I got older and went to a boarding school, my opportunities to watch it was very limited. I think during the whole entire Mary Hair time, I must have watched it about once or twice, and even then that was at Lee's house. I mean, thinking back on it a bit, I think I may have missed parts of a great era, but well, you cannot change the past. So why did I get back into it? Well, as anything, if you don't really have people to talk to about it who have similar interests, it's kind of hard to maintain a sustained interest because, like I said, there's no one to talk to, so it's just sort of like you're just watching it for yourself and blah, blah. But anyway, so this is where Dino comes in, because I found out that he liked wrestling, and not the sort of, I watched it in the past, I know who Stone Cold and The Rock is, etc., all that. He actually continued to watch it. His favourite at the time was Cody Rhodes, which his obsession with Cody Rhodes, that was amazing. Yeah, WrestleMania was also the next pay-per-view, so I was going to watch that simply because the main event was going to be The Rock versus John Cena. So I guess you could say The Rock got me back into wrestling, as I already knew who John Cena was. Seen him a couple of times, didn't like him, but I knew he was the main star. That is an understatement. Yeah. Anyway, what I've just said there was probably a good explanation what I've said there was probably a good advertisement for all these part-timers coming back at the big shows like this, because if they get people like me back into it, I'm sure there's someone else out there who's like watching it, remembers these people, watches it now and think, okay, I might continue with it. But I still have my issues with that, but we'll save that for another entry or something. So my first pay-per-view I watched live would have been WrestleMania 28, and then I've just taken to it, watching it whenever I can, and it's been almost a year, well, a year and a little bit, because Extreme Rules is coming up, since I watched it, and I'm actually really glad for that. Dino and Mikey and David, they're the people that I talk to about wrestling a lot more, and they'll probably jump in with their views and stuff like that. I'll make sure they do. But there's a fair few others that I talk to about it, and they're great to talk to, because they actually do watch some of it now rather than just the old stuff, because as great as it was, let's move on from that. And it made me think about how, depending on where you are, people will have a lot more shared interests than you may think. So that's definitely one to think out for, because you may think you're the only one that's interested in a particular topic, but no. Just be aware there are more people around you with that same interest than you may think. So I'm repeating myself here, but anyway, I'll post a fair bit about WWE, TNA, FCW. No, that's defunct right now. NXT, that was it. That's the one. NXT. Just anything really, anything to do with wrestling. But in the meantime, take care until next time, and don't forget, believe in the Shield.